So today I want to continue with another video. Like I said in the description, I had a previous channel with the same name, but I just lost access to that account. So I created a new one. This is that new one. Hopefully I don't make the same mistake. But what I was talking about on that previous channel was about things like narcissistic abuse, gang stalking, flying monkeys, agents of chaos, as I like to call them. We're looking at things from a very realistic and then also a very, not realistic, let's put it like this. I was talking about things from a very material and immaterial sense. And what I mean by that is a physical and spiritual sense, because there's this one quote, and you've heard the quote before in movies, but where the quote came from originally was an Egyptian god or ruler who wrote it in the thing called, I believe, the Emerald Tablets. I believe that's where it originated from. I don't really know. You got to fact check that. But the statement goes, as above, so below. And so, as far as I'm concerned, uh, there really is no need to. I don't feel the need to not look at things from a spiritual perspective. I don't feel the need to not look at things from a material perspective, because as far as I'm concerned, they're both two sides of the same coin. Um, and in my experiences in life, seeing that. And we'll go into more about right now in the beginning of my channel. You're going to be hearing me talk a lot about things in the past tense and things that are happening now currently, but mostly in the past tense. And to be honest, I'm in a different headspace right now. But I feel like in order for you, for any listener, anyone out there in the ether, to understand where I'm going to where I'm going to be taking this channel, you kind of need to go along the journey. So we're just going to talk about these things because I want you to understand that if this is happening to you, one, that you're not alone. Two, it's just to validate your experiences, because the abuse follows a pattern. It follows a playbook. Um, and if we can look at that playbook, we can, dissect it together. And in addition to that, we can also look at things like and then when we get to the end, or where I'm at in my headspace right now, we can uh, we can be there together. We can all be on one accord. But I really don't do intros, so let's just get right into this. They want you to lose your birthright. On my previous channel, I was talking about how, as human beings, part of our contract, or part of what makes us human, the thing that separates us from the beast in the field, is that we're not limited by our biological. We're just not limited by our biology. We're not limited by our limitations, our frailties. The things that make us weak. We can go beyond these things. We have the ability to. We have the ability of choice. Wild animals, it's like their instinct just takes over them. Um, and it's almost as if they don't have any choice in the matter. But as a human being, my instinct doesn't have to take over me. I have a choice in the matter. In fact, I can literally be like no one else ever was on this planet. And not only do I have the ability to do that, and we all have the ability to do that, but I can even go beyond my human limitations. Um, Things like my biology. It's definitely possible. And so, yeah, and that's just part of what it means to be human, and it's beautiful, and it's wonderful, and it was a gift given to us, by who, I don't know, by what, I don't know. But at the end of the day, this is just something that makes us human. Our ability to choose, our ability to not, succumb to our biological yearnings, just because we can act with a bit more dignity. We can act with a bit more character. We can follow rules a bit better. We can just do all those things. Now, so that's what I consider the human birthright. The human birthright is the right of choice, free will, if you will call it. You know, the ability to occupy the domain of man or the ability to occupy the domain of beast. And the beast domain is that domain of limitations. The beast domain is that domain of no choice. It's that domain of being subdued and yeah, just being subdued um, and being defined by your instincts and by your biological yearnings, and that just being the end of it. Um, so giving up your birthright would look like giving up your choice. It would look like becoming a slave to your own yearnings and things like that, to your biology. It would look like stepping back in the order of things and becoming a beast. You know, um, and something about the abuse, things like narcissistic abuse, things like gang stalking, things like dealing with people's flying monkeys. You know, that's what I call the gang stalkers. They're like flying monkeys are gang stalkers, all the same thing. Um, and and agents of chaos, you know, they're a little bit different from the branch of narcissism. They're more like the branch of gang stalkers and a network of uh, of individuals who are just seeking to lower the order of certain human beings. And what I mean by that is there are people interested in this world, entities that are interested in this world of getting as many people to lower their levels of consciousness as possible. And if they see you rising, if they see you, yeah, rising in the ranks or anything like that, they're going to send, they have specifically, um, they're trying to send as many forces into your life to just throw you off your life's purpose. Um, and honestly, a lot of the whole anti-work culture and a lot of the whole anti-purpose culture and all of that shit. I get what it's talking about. I get where it's coming from and things like that. But I actually think a lot of it is just ties hand in hand with the evil forces in this world working to throw people off of any type of purpose and things like that. Um, but that's a whole other topic. Today, I just want to talk about or delve deeper into that whole aspect of dealing with these entities that want you to give up your birthright or want you to give up your choice. And I always like to start with just a little bit of information about things about what I'm going through in my life because although when it comes to things like narcissistic abuse and gang stalking and stuff like that, although the abuse is like the individual trial that you're going through is unique to you because that's how the abuse is, that's how it works. It's supposed to be this unique thing that this intimate thing that only you can deal with. But not only is that the case, but it's also the case where it's just also the case where what's what I'm looking for? Oh yeah, despite that being the case, overall though, all narcissistic abuse, all gang stalking follows a certain pattern, which is you are being put through a covert form of abuse where it seems like your abuser is anywhere and everywhere at all times. Um, They're online, they're offline, they're just everywhere at all times. You're wondering to yourself, how the fuck do they get to these places? How the fuck do they know where I'm going? How the fuck do they this, that, and third? And living in this age of information and this age of surveillance, particularly in this era, it's extremely easy it's just very easy for people to, you know, rationalize the abuse that they're going through, as this purely physical thing that's happening to them, as this purely material thing that's happening to them, because because technology has really advanced, you guys. Like honestly, and something that I hate, especially hate, about people that just purely focus on the immaterial aspect of the form of abuse that we're going through, is that it's kind of like when the first Europeans came upon, certain tribes, and they had what looked like advanced weaponry, and well, what was advanced weaponry to these what was advanced weaponry at the time, and it really frightened them. It was powerful. It was mysterious. It was just different, and it put these people on a whole other level. And all they could think about was the fact that the tribe could only rationalize what was happening to them through spiritual means. Because when the Europeans came over, they didn't just come over with guns, they came over with books. And what I mean by that are holy books, spiritual books, things to change the mindset of the people, things to change people's minds. Europeans, whenever you read these books in history class about these Europeans coming to these tribes, oftentimes you'll sit there and you'll read about what's happening well after the fact. No one really realizes it or recognizes it, but I think it's important to look into, to pay attention to the first words of these history books. You'll see them say things like the, in 1839, or in 14 this or that, Hernan Cortez came here, and he fought these people, and he had 10,000 soldiers with the guns, and they had 15,000 soldiers with guns and shit like that, and then they went to battle and blah blah blah, and that's the Battle of Bunker Hill. They'll say shit like that, but there's so much context and things that are left out. Like, first of all, how the fuck did the other side get these weapons? They didn't just create them themselves. No, the Europeans actually, So when you read things like that, and then they'll also have things in the book like, for one of the whatchamacallits fell in love with one of the tribe people, and they'll talk. Basically, it's well known that the before they sent the cavalry, they sent the missionaries. And that's something that's really important to understand. Before there was any war, before there was any conflict, before there were any guns, before there were any weapons drawn, what they sent were gifts. They sent were people to learn the culture, people to blend in, people to, become like them. That is what they've done. Um, they sent people there to literally live and mingle with the natives, become a benefactor to them. And yeah, that's what they did. They sent all of these people there, um, to just create a life with these natives and to try and sway them in some way in order to, create an even more beneficial relationship. And that's something that's just, important to note, because because the microcosms follow the macrocosms follow the microcosms. And what I mean by that is what you can learn from these individual little war tactics is that one, this is something that's still happening. Something that abusers like to do is they like to kind of first of all, there's the whole isolating of the victim and things like that. But before that even happens, it's getting close to the victim. They want to become intimately close to you. They want to become they just want to hide in your ranks. They want to become part of your ranks. They want to become part of your fold. They want to, get in a cut with you. Um, and they do that so that they can destroy you. Um, and honestly, while there's wars that are waged on nations, and I mean by nations, groups of people, there's also wars that are waged on individuals. And what we have here are there's just this constant conflict in this, in this world and in this plane. And on this plane, what we have are wars of individuals, and then we have wars of groups, and then we have wars of cities, and then wars of nations. Um, and there's just all these constant conflicts going on. And today I'm in this channel focuses on the war of individuals, and what I mean by that is this channel focuses on those people who recognize that who have just kind of woken up and kind of realized like, oh shit, this world isn't it's just nothing like how you may have more than likely been told that the world works. And by that I mean you are dealing with you just don't realize just how much of your life you were pretty much being pushed and pulled, swayed and dissuaded, tested and passed or failed, the test by these entities or forces that look like you, talk like you, that were like you but weren't like you. Um, in the Christian faith, they'll call them angels and demons, and in the Buddhist faith, not faith, in the Buddhist philosophy, actually, they have different hells and they have different ideas about demons and spirits too, actually. But but there's all these metaphysical forces and things like that. But at the end of the day, ultimately, there's just these positive and these negative forces that try to influence you in this life. And I also want to talk about specifically about it being a positive or negative force. Because something I was thinking about today, honestly, was I was thinking about the Bible, and I was thinking about that because I have a very voracious appetite for information and for knowledge, specifically wisdom. Ever since I was a little girl, that was just the thing that I was after all my life. And knowledge is something that you gain from reading books, but wisdom is something that you gain from experience. It's something that you gain from living. You got to get out there. You got to do in order to get wisdom. And in my opinion, wisdom is far greater than knowledge. Knowledge will tell you that a tomato is a fruit, but wisdom will tell you, no, don't put that in a fruit salad, though. That's the difference. Uh, so, um, so I wanted to talk about, but being someone who has a voracious appetite for knowledge and wisdom and truth. Years ago I went on this really, really big quest for truth, and I was just like, I just wanted to know what just want to know the whys, like why am I here? The basic existential, the typical existential shit that teenagers and young adults go through. You just begin questioning your existence. You begin questioning your place in the world. You begin questioning the how did you get here, the why did you get here, purpose, meaning, all these different things. And one thing I noted was that once I began becoming just a bit aware of just a bit more aware of the fact that there are no such thing as coincidences in life, and that and that and that there are entities that interact with this world that just aren't they're very human. They're very much like us. It's just they're different in certain capabilities. That's all. They're just different in certain levels and things like that. Um, Point I'm making though is that while on this quest for knowledge, I began to question myself because what happened was life was going somewhere for me. And then once I began to, what's what I'm looking for? I wouldn't say become distracted from my purpose. I wouldn't say that. I would say more like once I just began, just being a bit more, yeah, just questioning life a bit more, becoming a bit more enthralled with the why of things instead of just trying to, keep living and things like that. I um I started getting a lot of pushback from from the world, and in a way that isn't normal. And by normal, I mean in a way that isn't, what's what I'm looking for. I just woke up. It's cheesy to say this, but I woke up from the Matrix ultimately. Um, and I just started realizing, like, oh snap. All my life, there's never really been anything like coincidence. Coincidences don't actually exist. Um, oh shit, like there's definitely forces that I can't see that are perpetually observing me, and not only observing me, but are leading me, corralling me, influencing me, and others. Um, and not only is that the case, but I too get to have an influence. And in addition to that, what else is there? There's just a whole lot going on here. But um, I wanted to talk about these. I want to talk about the fact that, once I began to, kind of wake up, I just reached a point where I was just like, where I just realized that this pushback I was receiving, um, this punishment, this torment that I was receiving, it was directly correlated to my, what's I'm looking for, productivity, if you will. And by productivity, I mean whether or not I was continuing to learn and pursue knowledge and information, or whether I was, kind of just stopping and just, living life and whatever. Now, all my life, I've been a really hardworking kind of kid, and then teenager, and then young adult. What I mean by that is just I studied. I studied perpetually. I was always looking for new things to learn. Always. What are those new words, new just always, always, always. I've always wanted to push the boundaries of my mind, push the boundaries of what I could know, of what's possible. But I grew up in a very religious home, and so in addition to that, what's the word I'm looking for? In addition to that, yeah, I just reached a point where I was just like, what should I care more about, in life? Because I can sit here and study and all that other good shit, but my soul, like, what about that? Like, isn't that, like, I'm not a Christian anymore. I don't believe in that shit anymore. But at the time, I was a long time ago, I just reached the conclusion that my internal well being is far more important and greater to me than my material well being. And so I just began, once again on this quest for just learning about ultimate truth and things like that. Um, and despite the fact that, I wouldn't say my grades suffered, but in a way they kind of did. Even though I still graduated with the great grades and things like that, I'd say they suffered because one, I wasn't doing my work as much, and I was doing other people's work for money and things like that. Um, I was just I was just a very entrepreneurial kid because my sister was entrepreneurial. I just watched her make shit happen, and I was like, oh shit, like I need to do that. Um, but where I'm going with all of this is that gang stalking um, and narcissistic abuse, in many instances, are it's like they're just forms of distraction of the highest caliber, I should say, honestly. They're like the highest caliber of distraction that is meant to throw you off of whatever purpose you've defined for yourself. Something that all victims of narcissistic abuse or gang stalking abuse will recognize is the fact that anytime you start to care about something, someone, have a mission or a goal or some shit like that, it's as if you know them, you know who they are, try to get in the way. It's like they're trying to just stop you. And they get in the way by trying to cause you psychological distress and harm. And this is done because psychological distress and harm is extremely hard to break free from or to heal from, because the mind is a very powerful tool that when disrupted can kind of just throw you off your entire life course. It really can. And that's what their goal is, to throw you off your life course and purpose. And so if they can capture your mind, they've ultimately captured you. Not only have they captured you, but they've captured your entity, they've captured your force. You know, something that psychological abuse does to its victims is at some point you just want to at some point you just want to do nothing. At some point you just want to sit down and lick your wounds. You just want to scroll all day. You just want to eat all day. You just want to do nothing. You just want to revert, you know, to almost like a child or a beast, you know, that's just to just stay within your limitations. You know, it's kind of like narcissistic abuse and gang stalking. These are just ways for agents of chaos to like crack the whip on your soul. And when they crack that whip on your soul, it's a way of like saying, step back, or, you know, get back there. Don't you dare develop. Don't you dare grow. Don't you dare, you know, level up. Um, and that's kind of what their abuse is doing. It's just in a way to kind of torment you or to stop you from just from living your life. And that's because there are entities in this world and people that are really interested and invested in you having less power, because the less power you have, the more dependent you are. And the more dependent you are, the more childlike you are. And the more childlike you are, the less authority you have. And the less authority you have, the less power you have. And the less power you have, the more power they have over you. Because, and having you coming to them, having you feed out of their hand, having you be dependent on them, like that's kind of like a goal of theirs. Because I remember when I was in a car and I was talking to a guy who was one of the positive spirits instead of one of the negative spirits. He was talking, not about spirit, I just mean actually a person, just a person that I don't know, that I can't, really, just a person I don't know. And this guy, he was talking to me about how, when he was up and he had all this money, he had all these people surrounding him, he had all these people that were there and things like that. But upon losing his money, that typical tale of losing his money and wealth and things like that, all of a sudden all his friends disappeared and no one was there to help him. Um, so yeah, there's that whole thing. And he told me, and he took his hand and he was like, you don't want to be the hand like this. And he just raised his hand up with his palm facing toward the sky, and kind of like a beggar's hand. And he was like, you don't want to be the hand like this. You want to be the hand like this. And he turned his palm towards the floor, and he connected his thumb to his index finger, and it kind of looked like he was giving, kind of like, taking a piece of something and laying it down, or, picking something up and then, handing it out. And yeah, he was basically saying, you don't want to be a beggar. You want to be a giver. You want to be the person you never want to be the person whose hand is out. You want to be the person whose hand is extended to give, not the person whose hand is extended to take. Um, because when you're one or the other, people can take advantage of you and things like that. Takers get taken advantage of. So you never want to be a taker, which makes sense. And where I'm going with all of this is the fact that is that your gang stalkers and abusers, they perpetually want you in a state of taking. They perpetually want you in a state of just where you can't do anything without them. They want you perpetually in this state. And that's because, once again, they have power and authority over you. You're constantly at the mercy of their whims when you're in that state. Now, once again, I believe this is part of why being productive or things like that kind of lowers your abuse. And I wanted to talk about what that means really. And this is the reason why I brought up that topic of knowledge, and my whole pursuit of knowledge and things like that. And that's because I wanted to talk about the fact that, in the Bible, oftentimes, and something that my gang stalkers and harassers have done with me is they've tried once again, trying to convince me that knowledge isn't something that I actually want, or that's something that I'm actually trying to be after. Because, oh no, knowledge, remember, that's the root of all evil. That's Eve ate of the tree of knowledge, and then she was banished from the Garden of Eden. And I wanted to talk about that because I wanted to make it very clear that when it comes to knowledge, and the knowledge that Eve had, it wasn't just general knowledge. It wasn't just knowledge. No, specifically, it was the knowledge of good and evil. And there's so much you can delve into with that. There's so much. I don't have the range for it, honestly, at this point in time, but I will one day. But for right now, Eve eating of the tree of knowledge of good and evil was what took her out of the Garden of Eden. It's what took her from, that place. And so it's not just pursuing knowledge in general. It's the pursuit of the knowledge of, or not the pursuit, it's the knowledge of good and evil, which is what made us like gods. It's what made us it's what once again kind of separated us eternally from the beast. And today I want to talk about I want to delve deeper into that because I'm on the topic of the birthright. And once again, as a human being, your birthright isn't only just choice, but it's knowledge of good and evil. And I wanted to talk about how that also has played into like my abuse and things like that. Um, what is the knowledge of good and evil? You got to ask yourself that. What does that mean? And if you're in college, you're probably thinking to yourself things like ethics or the study of yeah, because good and evil is a topic of morality, and morality is a very vague thing. And this is the reason why culture wars are so inconclusive. They just seem so this, that, or the third. And they just seem so strange and difficult to manage. And that is because what is good and what is evil, it's in many cases subject. Like, it's just such a very difficult topic. It's just so it's not cut and dry like math or sciences. When you have things down to a science, that means you have things clearly defined. You have results that you can replicate. Everything is just so clear. Um, and the pursuit of knowledge, that type of knowledge, knowledge of the world, knowledge of rules and laws that govern this world and that govern the elements, that type of knowledge, it really just it doesn't really divide anyone. If anything, all it does is just bring people together because it just makes greater sense of this world. But the knowledge of good and evil, or just morality and things like that, or judgment, even, you could really, because ethics is honestly the study of, judgment. It's judgment. Um, and judgment and good and evil and morality and all that stuff, it's not, it's divisive. It can really tear people apart. It can really just throw people off. Um, And it's just so inconclusive that it even seems like it's silly to even try and, you know, to claim what is ultimate good or what is ultimate evil, because at the end of the day, in reality, we're all just here trying to make sense of our, of this world that we didn't ask to be. We're just all just trying to make sense of our place on this speck of dust floating in the infinite ether of nowhere. And so when you think about that, um, judging people for how like killing someone or like doing things like that, at the end of the day, there are things that when done or when performed, just really causes a lot of distress, pain, and it's just something that the golden rule: do unto others as you would want done unto you, you know? And what that really means is don't kill nobody, don't steal from nobody, don't, force anyone into anything that they don't want to be forced into. It's a do no harm, take no shit type of law. Like that's kind of what it is. And that's ultimately all there is to this life. And that's kind of a philosophy that I've had for a long time. Like I really just don't believe in don't get me wrong. There's a difference between critical thinking and judgment. When I can recognize that and this is something that I've always said, and this is the reason why I delve into the whole there's a reason why I call agents of chaos and things like that, these gang stalkers, abusive and amoral, because they're very they're just very human, and they don't really have a certain amount of range or knowledge that just really grants them the authority to be able to dole out punishment or reward in an accurate way. And what I mean by that is, despite the fact that I'm someone who is very non-judgmental, I'm still a critical thinker. I'm very critical. I am not judgmental, but I'm very critical. And what I mean by that is I'm just analytical. Like I look at things, I can't help but like that's just the way my mind works. Like I literally just can't help but analyze everything in every situation that I'm in. Like I can't help but just think about the facts, the income, the outcome. I just can't help but think about all these different variables. Like I just can't help it. Um, and I use those things that to analyze. I use those analytical skills to help guide my life. And as a human being, it's completely natural to judge. It's completely natural to make conclusions. It's completely natural to have things that are for you and aren't for you. Like there's that whole expression of, I'm, you know, that's so good for you. Like that, I'm happy about that for you. That's an expression that says, like I might not want that, but for you, I'm happy that's for you. Like I'm happy that you're like that's good for you. You know, and something that these agents of chaos have done is these spiritually immature people is that they've gone ahead and they've confused critical thinking with being judgmental. And it's just like, look, I don't know what to fucking tell you. Um, if I don't want to, do drugs all day, I really don't have to. I can view that as something that's negative. It's as if this is the reason why I call them agents of chaos, and the reason why I really struggle to view them as any type of positive force in this world at all, even though I can tell that they view themselves in that way. And that is because anyone with any sense would know that one, that's just part of what being human is about. Like I don't there's no way to go back. Like I can't go back and not have the knowledge of good and evil. I can't not judge. Like that literally doesn't make sense to me. Not only does it not make sense, but it's just fucking stupid. Asking someone to not judge or trying to, first of all, not being able to tell the difference between critical thinking and being judgmental is, first of all, already a sin right there. And by a sin, I mean it's already missing the mark. The original translation of sin is to miss the mark. And so that's just a flaw right there. And then on top of missing the mark and sinning, um, and then to also sit there and try to view a person judging or making judgments as being evil or deserving of punishment, like it's just like, whoa, like it, not only just that, but personal judgments that they keep to themselves that they aren't trying to use to influence other people. Like I can just tell already, like my gang stalkers and abusers and harassers, they're just really hell bent on they're just really hell bent on trying to punish me for everything that makes me human and everything that makes me more than human too. It's like there's no way of really winning. As far as they're concerned, the only time you're winning is when you're making money, and if that's the case, that's really not that's no that's no real reward at all. There's this one expression, and this is one comes from the Bible, and it goes, what is it to gain the world and lose your soul? I brought that up in one of my previous videos, and I bring that expression up because if I if I become ultra successful in this and that, and I have all these people who love me for this thing, sure, I've gained the world, but at the expense of my soul, like at the expense of of me. Like at the end of the day, like I'm a human being. I'm put on this